un puertorriqueño muy activo y influente en nuestra comunidad, presidente de la Sociedad Puertorriqueña y recientemente elegido como vicepresidente del Grupo de Líderes Hispanos. Omar Maldonado nos habla acerca del crecimiento de nuestras organizaciones locales y de nuestra comunidad hispana aquí en Ahora San Luis. Hoy nos visita Omar Maldonado, quien es el presidente de la Sociedad Puertorriqueña y vicepresidente del Grupo de Líderes Hispanos, Hispanic Leaders Group. Omar, bienvenido a Ahora San Luis.
Muchas gracias, Gilberto. Es un placer.
Ok, y vamos a hacer la entrevista en inglés,
sí,
porque quiero que nuestras personas sepan que nosotros también podemos comunicarnos en el idioma local, que es el idioma inglés.
Sí.
Así es que cuéntame un poquito acerca, tell me a little bit about your heritage, where you coming from.
Okay, well, I'm Puerto Rican. My mother and father are both Puerto Rican. My mother was born in Puerto Rico. My father was born in New York. And I was born in Puerto Rico. And I was living there till I was about 1 or 2. And then my parents moved into the Virginia, D.C. area.
Okay.
And I lived there till I was about in 3rd grade, and I moved into St. Louis. And I've been here ever since.
How easy or how difficult was it for you to assimilate into the school system here in St. Louis, and then, you know, being the, I guess, odd or the different person in your community, in your school community?
Well, I have to say, when I was in D.C., it was very easy. The assimilation was quick, it was fast.
Okay.
And as a younger child, I didn't have those issues. However, when I moved into St. Louis, for me, the assimilation wasn't hard when it comes to like the language or learning cultures or any of that. The difficult part was actually sharing my culture with others, because there was just a lot of unknowns with other people, and they were unsure. I was one out of 3 minorities in my entire school.
Wow.
And my sister happened to be one of the other minorities.
One of the other minorities in your
Yeah.
school. So what was the common question that people would ask you?
Well,
do you remember?
You know, it was. They really didn't ask. That was the odd thing about St. Louis. When I lived over in the D.C. area, there was people would ask questions. You know, where are you from? You know, how long have you been here? And all different types of things. But when I came to St. Louis, it was a little bit different because less people asked me those questions, and I felt more like, well, I had to really push to be part of the group.
Oh, okay. So you concentrated on educating people about your culture and, you know, what is to be Puerto Rican.
Right.
You know?
And in fact, it was more of me trying to assimilate to the St. Louis culture than trying to worry about anybody assimilating to my culture.
Now, you're very active in the Hispanic community, especially in the grassroots organizations such as the Puerto Rican Society and the Hispanic Leaders Group. Tell me a little bit about the Puerto Rican Society.
Okay. Well, the Puerto Rican Society, I became involved in Puerto Rican Society since I was just a young kid. I saw my parents being very involved in the community, and I started doing volunteer work within the group. And as I got older, I saw that there was a need for more inclusion of Hispanics within the St. Louis area.
And Hispanics that are already assimilated, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. And St. Louis is unique because St. Louis is not a tends not to be a first or second stop for people, especially Hispanics. Most Hispanics that are coming here, a lot of the time, they're already professionals. They're being brought in by organizations, you know, doctors, lawyers, and they're bringing their families here. So
what is the main mission or function of the Puerto Rican Society here in the San Luis community?
Well, the Puerto Rican Society, the mission is to spread cultural awareness within St. Louis about Puerto Rico and our culture. And one of the other missions that we have is to assist with scholarships, with education. So we raise funds every year to give out scholarships to students that are wanting to further their education by going into colleges or university, or students that are already in colleges and university that want to continue.
And you have helped a lot of Latino students already, right?
Yes, we have. Yes, our board has been wonderful in accomplishing those goals. We've raised, since I've been the president of the organization, we've raised roughly around $15,000 for scholarships for students.
Omar, what inspired you to be a part of the Puerto Rican Society? What inspired you to be the president of the Puerto Rican Society, where you are totally assimilated? You could have done so many other things.
Well, you know, I have to give credit to my parents. My parents were very much an influence in my life, and they were always active. Again, my father being from New York, he was already assimilated from birth. And even though he had the least amount of assimilation within my family, however, he was very much active, and he was very proud of his culture and sharing that. And as well as my mother, she's very prominent in the Hispanic community here, and they were role models for me. And I wanted to do the same thing, and I felt that I needed to be a role model for the next generation of Hispanics that are here in St. Louis to stand up and start moving the cause forward.
And as you mentioned before, the Hispanic community in St. Louis is kind of like underground still, because we have two communities, the migrant and then the affluent. And it is very difficult to communicate to them via regular mediums because of the fact that it's so underground, right?
Yeah, it is, and that's one of the things. That's one of the reasons why we feel that the Hispanic community is not getting as much recognition as it should be, because of that fact. Because it does have that underground tone. But there are a tremendous amount of Hispanics here in St. Louis.
Okay, so to talk more about the Puerto Rican Society, what other services or functions or events you do during the year?
Oh, we have great events that we throw throughout the year. Two of our largest events is our summer picnic, which we hold every summer within June or July. And then we also hold our holiday gala, which is usually around the first or second weekend in December. Both of those events are fundraisers, which we use to raise scholarships, and we have live music at both events. We have traditional foods at both events. We have great sponsors that come out, and it's very inclusive to the entire St. Louis community. So it's not just exclusive to Hispanics or Puerto Ricanos. It's very much open to everyone, and we have tons of friends that are from all different backgrounds, all different ethnicities that come in and enjoy themselves and have a little taste of what it's like to be in Puerto Rico. And for those that have come from Puerto Rico that maybe miss it, then they get to for a day or for an evening not feel so homesick.
Oh, I see. and also you serving as an important ambassador to the Puerto Rican community, to the mainstream here in St. Louis, because you're continuously promoting what is to be Puerto Rican, already assimilated here in the St. Louis area. So you guys are doing excellent.
Thank you.
I know I enjoy, the picnics and the barbecues and all the parties, and the most important part of it, doing the scholarships. Because I know you have helped a lot of Latino students. Any memorable moments that you remember from one of the scholarship recipients, from somebody that said, I was able to do this because of?
Well, in fact, just our 2010 holiday gala that we held, one of the recipients, Maria May Gonzalez.
Well, listen, do me a favor.
Yes.
Hold that thought because we have to go into a short break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about that recipient and then your other role, which is the Vice President of the Hispanic Leaders Group.
Wonderful.
Okay, so don't go anywhere. Y ustedes tampoco. No vayan a ningún sitio. Quédense aquí con nosotros en Ahora San Luis. Vamos a regresar después de esta pausa comercial.
Hola queridos televidentes, el tema de hoy es el asma, ya que es la enfermedad respiratoria crónica más común en nuestros niños, pero que también puede afectar los pulmones de los adultos. Los síntomas más comunes son las sibilancias o silbidos, la falta de aire, presión en el pecho y tos durante la noche o temprano en la mañana. Los principales desencadenantes del asma incluyen las infecciones virales o bacterianas, el humo del cigarrillo, el polvo, la contaminación ambiental, las mascotas, etc. En muchos casos no podemos determinar exactamente qué causó el ataque ni tampoco podemos curar el asma definitivamente. Pero lo más importante es que puede controlar el asma, así como lo oye. Primero, reconociendo los signos de alerta de un ataque y evitando el contacto con las cosas que lo pueden originar. Y en segundo lugar, tomando los medicamentos de forma indicada. Por favor, siga las recomendaciones de su médico, quien diseñará un plan para el control del asma para que sepa lo que debe hacer de acuerdo a sus síntomas. De esta manera, podrá dormir mejor, no tendrá que faltar a la escuela o al trabajo, podrá hacer más ejercicio y no tendrá que ir al hospital. Con mucho cariño, en nombre de Molina Healthcare, les habló su doctora Cristina Costa.
Hola, soy Janet Kaplun de Viva la Familia de Todo Bebé. 1 de cada 3 niños tiene sobrepeso, pero tú puedes ayudar a tu hijo a prevenir la obesidad. Ofrécele frutas y vegetales cada día. Limita las gaseosas. Es mejor beber agua o leche con 1% de grasa. Trata que tu hijo se ejercite al menos 1 hora al día y pregúntale al médico de tu hijo si su peso es saludable. Este mensaje es una cortesía de Molina Healthcare y Viva la Familia.
¿Cuáles son los números que importan en tu vida?
Tu salario.
¿Tu aniversario de bodas?
Los cumpleaños de tus hijos.
Si tienes diabetes, el número más importante es tu A1C.
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 El A1C es el número que le dice a tu doctor si tu diabetes estuvo bajo control los últimos 3 meses.
Porque si tu diabetes no está controlada...
Pregúntale a tu doctor cuál es tu A1C.
Pregúntale.
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 Pregúntale. Él lo sabe y tú debes saberlo también.
Únete a la campaña Ahora sé mi A1C.
Bienvenidos una vez más a Ahora San Luis, ya que estamos celebrando nuestro 10 aniversario aquí en su canal STL TV. Con nosotros hoy Omar Maldonado, quien es el presidente de la Sociedad Puertorriqueña y vicepresidente del Hispanic Leaders Group, o el grupo de líderes hispanos de aquí de San Luis. Y estamos haciendo la plática en inglés. Omar, you were telling me more or something a little bit about the recipient.
Yes.
That scholarship recipient from the Puerto Rican Society and your memorable moment.
Well, Maria May Gonzalez is her name. And Maria May actually had received a scholarship, I believe, 2 years in a row.
Okay.
And she had been going to school for a long time, and she came up and she was talking about, it's been a difficult road, but I'm really pushing through, and she was asking about the scholarships, and she put in for it and she received it, and it was getting amazing grades.
Okay.
And last year at our 2010 holiday gala, she ended up being one of our presenters.
Yes.
Over there, and
I recall.
And it was great. It was just a great testimony because she is now an adjunct professor at Webster University.
Awesome.
And also at UMSL. And in the social justice department, she sits on a social justice committee. She's doing so much work within the community. And it's within her organization, she's pushing forward for the entire St. Louis community, so that there's more bridging between the Hispanic community and the non-Hispanic community. Exactly. So it's just a great effort that she's put forward, and we're extremely proud. Yes, absolutely.
She's giving back. We're really proud of her too. I know I had the opportunity to interview her briefly during that particular event, and she is very remarkable. Yeah. So I'm glad that you had the opportunity to give her scholarship so she could better her education. Anyway, so let's change a little bit now and go into the Hispanic Leaders Group, because you just got elected as the vice president. And tell us more about what is the Hispanic Leaders Group. What is their mission and their function?
Well, the Hispanic Leaders Group tends to be the voice of the greater Hispanic community here in St. Louis. And there's a lot of different functions of the Hispanic Leaders Group. The Hispanic Leaders Group does a lot of awareness training for organizations. We do a lot of gatherings and meetings within such companies as Ameren UE, Monsanto, where we talk about the importance of bringing in diversity and including Hispanics within their organizations. We also, just recently, one of the things that we've been working on is collaborations with the ADL, which is the Anti-Defamation League, to be able to address some of the issues that may come up in St. Louis.
Immigration, human traffic.
Well, it's actually more on a local level that the Hispanic Leaders Group gets involved with. We want to make sure that there's no rights being
violated.
Exactly, no rights being violated or taken away in any way, shape, or form, or any type of defamation towards Hispanics here in St. Louis, because there is a lot of education that still has to be done in St. Louis when it comes to the Hispanic community.
Okay, so is that happening a lot? Are Hispanics still facing discrimination, violation of their rights, assumptions that, you know, they are all undocumented and they come from one region of a country or one particular country? Is that still happening?
It's not done by groups. I want to get that out first and foremost. It's not done by groups, but there are individuals that still cross those boundaries. We've seen in the past that there have been specific counties here in St. Louis that have tried to violate some rights and trying to take certain actions upon themselves, which violate their constitutional rights. And so when things like that come up, we do act upon it.
So what is the common misperception that a non-Hispanic may have about a Hispanic, and how is the Hispanic Leaders Group trying to eliminate that misperception?
Well, the most common misperception is that people that come here to the States, or people of color, that they don't want to assimilate, that they expect everyone to learn about them and they don't want to do anything. Well, the fact is that that's virtually impossible. In order to get anything done, in order to be able to get a job, in order to be able to communicate, we have to assimilate as a group. And that's number one. What I find is that many people that do come here, that migrate here, are the first ones that want to assimilate. They're very hard workers. They're very close to their families. They want to take care of their families, and they don't want to do anything that's going to give a negative perception of them, their family, or their community.
Omar, in your own personal opinion, and I have my own personal, opinion on this matter, but what's your take on the illegal versus undocumented? That terminology that often people use.
Versus undocumented.
The undocumented, or people often call people that are immigrating illegal instead of undocumented. And I always say, well, they're undocumented, they're not illegal.
Right.
What's your take?
My take is that the system itself is flawed. And because of that, there's not enough ownership where it needs to be, and that's within the people that created that system, or the people that have the authority to change that system. And because of that, there's a lot of misnomers, and people want to, as Americans, we want to make sure that we're doing our part to be responsible Americans. But sometimes those boundaries get crossed, and people try doing things on their own that go back to violating those rights of citizens.
But do you call somebody illegal, or do you call somebody undocumented?
We try to call somebody undocumented. Simply because of the fact that And just because you're undocumented doesn't mean you're illegal. A perfect example would be Puerto Ricans right now in Puerto Rico. They had to do the changing of the birth certificate.
Okay.
And for a long time, I know people personally that are Puerto Ricans born in New York, but there's been issues with birth certificates, or if they were born in Puerto Rico and birth certificates got lost, well, for a period in time, they're undocumented.
But you see,
they're not illegal.
That's a topic for another conversation.
Exactly.
So
we'll be here all day.
Anyway, going back to the Hispanic Leaders Group, I know that you are doing a lot to advocate, the importance of the Hispanic community in our region, how we are assimilating, how we are positively contributing to the growth of the area. So if we want information, because you do have speaker series and then you also have a scholarship, how do we get in contact with you?
Well, with the Hispanic Leaders Group, we have a website. It's www.hlgstl.org.
Okay. hlgstl.org.
Yes.
I know we're going to have the information available to everybody at home.
We're also on Facebook as well for everybody that likes to be on Facebook.
Under what?
And you can look under Hispanic Leaders Group of Greater St. Louis.
Okay.
And you can find our page on there as well.
So 2 very easy ways to find information about what's going on with the Hispanic Leaders Group and how you can help and how you can get informed. Ya ustedes saben que si ustedes necesitan más información acerca de lo que está sucediendo con la comunidad hispana y quieren saber las conferencias que el grupo de líderes hispanos están promoviendo, están hablando, están platicando para que la gente entienda qué es lo que está haciendo nuestra comunidad, pueden ir a su página de la web, que es hlgstl.org. Omar, thank you very much. We had a great interview in English, and both Puerto Ricans. Anyway, muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Y ya ustedes saben que otra vez más, si se quieren comunicar con el Hispanic Leaders Group, vayan a hlgstl.org. Nosotros vamos a regresar con más Ahora San Luis, aquí en su canal STL TV.
Hola, soy Janet Kaplun de Viva la Familia de Todo Bebé. La salud de nuestros hijos es una de las cosas que más debemos proteger. El asma infantil afecta a cerca de 5 millones de niños en este país. ¿Cómo puedes darte cuenta si tu hijo sufre de asma? Aquí tienes algunos síntomas: tos, resoplidos al respirar, dificultad para respirar, dolor u opresión en el pecho. Si tu hijo tiene alguno de estos síntomas, por favor consulta a tu médico familiar o al pediatra, porque el asma sí puede tratarse. Estos consejos son una cortesía de Molina Healthcare y Viva la Familia.
Puedo administrar un negocio con éxito.
Puedo llevar a cabo las mejoras de tu hogar.
Puedo promocionar tus ideas.
Pero no puedo ejercer mis habilidades
si no me da la oportunidad.
Cerca de 50 millones de estadounidenses tienen discapacidades. Aproveche sus talentos con prácticas de empleo que nos benefician a todos. Para obtener más información, visite ustedquepuedehacer.org.
Y nos vamos con Frances Morales, quien nos trae otra interesante entrevista. Frances.
Joseph Calabro, policía de San Luis, está llevando a cabo una orientación mayor para los refugiados de otros países. Hoy ofrece consejos a los inmigrantes sobre la manera de adaptarse a la vida en la ciudad. En colaboración del Instituto Internacional de San Luis, Calabro, un veterano de 15 años en el tercer distrito, enseña clases semanales para educar a los refugiados y a los inmigrantes recién llegados sobre la manera de vivir en los Estados Unidos. Para Calabro, se trata de la extensión. Su objetivo principal es educar a los inmigrantes y a los refugiados sobre la seguridad pública.
It's important because sometimes this is the first opportunity that immigrants from other countries have had an opportunity to communicate, associate with the police department, or interact with the police.
Calabro dice que el Departamento de Policía toman varias maneras en adaptarse a varias barreras.
We have a couple different things available to us, a couple of different resources. One is we have a picture speaks louder than words type brochure that allows the police department to get just basic first step information in emergencies. So we can get the basic emergency services out to them, police, fire, and ambulance.
Calabro también dice que la policía tiene a su disposición intérpretes que hablan más de 150 idiomas. El instituto ayuda con esa necesidad. Es parte de la misión, dice Ariel Burgess del instituto, de proporcionar servicios a los extranjeros.
That could include immigrants or refugees or trafficking victims or asylee individuals, pretty much anybody who is foreign born.
Cada año el instituto atiende más de 9,000 personas y los patrocina a los refugiados en llegar a los Estados Unidos.
Each year we've averaged, on average, about 600 refugees per year, and they can come from all over the place. We have resettled Uzbekis, we've resettled Congolese, we've resettled Russians, Bhutanese, Iraqis, Burmese, so we pretty much have a great diversity of refugees in St. Louis.
Mientras se puede educar a los recién llegados inglés, encontrar trabajo o ofrecer orientación, traducción y otros servicios de apoyo, el instituto ayuda a miles de inmigrantes a integrarse al estilo de vida americano.
One of the things that is very important to the Institute is that individuals who are new to the country are allowed access to immersion. So we want them to have the full realm of life in the United States. So what is it like to go to public school? What is it like to apply for Medicaid? What is it like to get a job? So that's the immersion that we want. We want them to experience it and get to know how to live in the United States.
Refugiado de Napa, Mongal es un joven de 16 años que está poco a poco adaptándose a las costumbres americanas. Sin embargo, a pesar de haber vivido aquí durante un mes, Mongal, de origen bhutanesa, dice que está feliz en estar aquí.
Now I'm going to English class at the institute, and he is interested for going to school also, regular school. Yeah, institute has helped him by providing him shelter and even clothes.
Cada año el Instituto Internacional ayuda a miles de inmigrantes como Mongal en integrarse en este país, en aprender inglés, encontrar trabajo y en la transición de la ciudad.
At first, when I was here, I was a bit nervous. I was totally lost. And after some days, when I started coming to English class and I have interactions with other people over here, I'm now very much comfortable.
Estos seminarios han ayudado a construir relaciones positivas entre los recién llegados como Mongal y los estadounidenses como Calabro.
And so they can see what a police officer is up close and personal, that they can interact with us. We're not like robots, and we do have emotions and feelings, and they can sense that when you're here in person.
Mongal está de acuerdo.
He's very happy to see the American police for the first time. He saw this today only.
Para Calabro, es una gran interacción social.
It makes you a little bit more appreciative of the inalienable rights that I had as being born here in the United States. I mean, you can't imagine what it would be like to pick up all your belongings and all your family and move them to a new country and then learn all the nuances that go along with it. So it does bring some humility down to it.
Desde San Luis les informa Fran Morales.
Y me despido hasta la próxima. Este es Gilberto Pinela. Quédense aquí en su canal STL TV.